comes in the name of the Lord.
Shalom and welcome to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker. The political landscape of America is changing, and socialism is rearing its head in a more profound way than any other previous time in our history. Conservatism is being redefined, and the Bible, if even referenced, is no longer the foundation upon which America is built. Here to talk about what is going on in America today is Joe Newby of ConservativeFiringLine.com. Joe is a 10-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps who wrote for Examiner.com for 6 years. His articles have also appeared at Newsbusters, Spokane Faith and Values, and other sites all over the web. He currently runs the Conservative Firing Line, where he discusses issues important to conservatives. He's the co-author of a book called Banned: How Facebook Enables Militant Islamic Jihad. And Joe joins us here on the first Monday of every month at the 12 o'clock hour. Joe Newby, welcome to this edition, your edition, of Revealing the Truth.
Good morning, Eric. It's great to see you again. How are you today?
Good to see you. I hear our good friend, Mr. Parrott in the back.
Actually, the parrot's being a little bit quiet. Oh, nope, there she goes. You're probably also hearing our vicious guard pup out there as well. So,
Well,
she doesn't like to be kept out of the loop on anything. You know?
Well, you're out there in the in the wilderness, as far as we're concerned, in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, I'm loving every minute of it.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I think that in the climate change discussions, the political Northwest is often referred to just because of some of the volcanic activity out of Washington, the plate tectonics of that rift that goes all the way down through California.
Right.
Kind of like the Jordan Rift Valley, the African Rift Valley that goes all the way between the continents of Asia and Africa, all the way across Israel by Jordan and all the way down. So there's a lot of play, but is there a lot of sway is really the question in this narrative that's going on about the Green New Deal and what this platform of really the Penn and Teller platform, which is pay no attention to what we're doing because we're just playing tricks on you.
Yeah.
So are you seeing a lot of that up in your area?
Well, you know, it's funny. In my particular area, not so much. I mean, Idaho is a pretty conservative state. We experience these things 4 times a year. Most places they call them seasons. Here we joke though. We say here we have 2 major seasons, snow and potholes. And right now we're in pothole season, which means all of a sudden during this time of year, it's the most amazing thing, Eric. I'm serious. Construction crews pop up out of the ground and they're on the freeway for 3 months. And then when the snow comes, they go away and we don't ever see them again. So that's basically it here where I'm at. But no, up here in Idaho anyway, North Idaho, we're rather blessed up here in that we have relatively mild summers. In fact, I have not even needed to turn my air conditioner on a single time so far this summer.
That's great.
It's really been nice. Usually, you know, we get a few days up here in the 90s, and we kind of tend to freak out a little bit up here. There have been summers where we have had several days where it's been 100 degrees, in a row. But I have not seen that this year at all. It's actually been a very mild summer.
Yeah, very confirming of global warming, isn't it?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
In pulling up conservativefiringline.com this morning, of course, the two stunning articles, both bylined by you, have to do with this shooting in Dayton and the shooting in El Paso.
Right.
And it seems that the narrative surrounding these, as we first hear the report, as was going all the way back to the days of San Bernardino's shooting, going back to really Parkland and all of them, is a rush to judgment, first drawing some conclusion without having any of the information whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But the Dayton shooter now is described as a socialist, Satan-loving, Elizabeth Warren supporting, Donald Trump hater, and he literally killed his sister in this outburst by this 24-year-old Connor Betts.
Right. Right.
In your coverage of this story, what was your takeaway from this, and what are we seeing as the response across social media and across mainstream media, which swings both ways, that Donald Trump is personally responsible for these shootings, and he is should be held accountable for them?
Absolutely. Well, in all of these shootings, we go through the same cycle. It happens. We're all shocked and dismayed. The left instantly comes out and blames the Second Amendment, blames the NRA, blames the existence of firearms, blames the Second Amendment, blames the Republican Party, and nowadays Donald Trump. In fact, AOC was out blaming Trump and the GOP, the Republican voters, and essentially every one of us, because we're all racists. That's what she was blaming. But it turns out this Connor Betts proudly admitted that he wanted socialism. And he did this right shortly after the 2016 election. It gets even better.
We're getting a lag.
Has been for a while. And then he comes out and he says that he would happily, quote unquote, happily vote for Elizabeth Warren. He's not too keen on Bernie Sanders, but he loves the squad, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, that bunch. He loves them to pieces. And the funny thing, there's an article over at heavy.com that has some of his tweets. And by the way, there's something else interesting too. Twitter took down his Twitter timeline not too long after he was identified. Now, I think you and I both know that if this were an actual, honest-to-goodness NRA, card-carrying NRA member, Republican, Donald Trump supporter, his Twitter feed, if he had one, would probably remain live, and it would be referenced by CNN for the next 6 to 8 months. No doubt in my mind about that. But now we find out that this individual, who, as you correctly noted, shot and killed his 22-year-old sister, along with several others. He's killed so far 9. Wounded 27. Police took him down, I think, about a minute after he started because they were already on the scene. So here we have an example of good guys with guns dealing with a very bad guy with a gun. Not just a bad guy, but the same kind of guy who took shots at Republicans while they were practicing baseball.
Right.
The same kind of guy who shot and almost killed Representative Steve Scalise. Now, I'm going to harken back, if I may, to an op-ed that I wrote back in June. And I know it's going to hit some people hard, and I hope it does. I really do. Um, I have been writing about left wing hatred for a long, long time, Eric, during the 2012 election. When Mitt Romney was running. I was no huge fan of Romney, don't get me wrong, um, but he was who we had. He was the Republican nominee. And it was almost a daily occurrence where we saw leftists on social media openly advocating the man's murder repeatedly. Murder him, murder his kids, murder his wife, calling for civil war, calling for attacks upon the White House if Romney won, and on and on and on it went. There was even a Facebook page that advocated Romney's murder. It took a while, but Facebook finally took the thing down. I think that was after the Secret Service hit him up about it. But this sort of thing happens all the time, Eric. So I did an op-ed listening to the media. MSNBC is on a tear. We've had multiple commentators. I call them propagandists. I don't call them reporters anymore because they don't report.
Right.
They simply repeat Democrat Party talking points and call every Trump supporter in the country a racist, a Nazi, and they're actually using these terms. And they're saying Joy Reid, for example, and others. They come right out, Eric, and they say we have to call Trump supporters racist because if you're white and you support Trump, you're a racist. And they're running on this platform. Well, knowing how unhinged the left is, Eric, I came to the conclusion that, you know what, there can only be one possible reason for this. And that is, I believe that the Democrat Party, especially the radical version, the radical far left wing of the party, along with their propagandists in the media, and I hate to say it, but along with Silicon Valley, tech companies like Facebook, Google, companies that have openly stated they were going to work to stifle conservative content and work to quote unquote undo the 2016 election. I came to the conclusion, and people can disagree with me if they wish, that's fine, I welcome that discussion, but I came to the conclusion that these people are deliberately pushing this country to the brink of a second bloody civil war. That's my opinion based on what I see in the news every single day, based on what I see coming out of CNN, based on what I see coming out of MSNBC. My gosh, Eric, there's a guy who appears on MSNBC, a fellow named Donnie Deutsch. You know who I'm talking
Sure.
about. Every time this man opens his mouth, it's violent rhetoric. And you got this clown burger, what's his name, Rick Wilson, a so-called GOP strategist, who does essentially the same thing. Constantly. You have people in Hollywood. What was that guy's name? Michael Shannon. He was the guy who played Zod in a Superman movie, okay? I mean, not what you'd call a political expert, but after Trump was elected, this man came out. This is the modern left, and enough of this. And I'm thinking, you couple that with Antifa and their antics, you couple that with AOC and her comments, and look at what happened up here in Tacoma, not too far from where I live, in fact, where this guy goes out, this Antifa guy goes out, and he spouts AOC talking points and tries to shoot the place up. And we're the racists? We're the bad guys? What's up with this? So, like I said, it wasn't an easy conclusion for me to come to, but I did come to the conclusion that I believe these people want, at heart,
the makings of a dividing line within America, which is tantamount to a civil war. You're looking at people who are saying disarm, and every time you say disarm, how do you advance the cause of a civil war? There's no civility in war, number one, so that's kind of a misnomer. But two, if you have these four talking heads, and those four talking heads happen to be in Israel, which is an interesting place for two of them to be going, because they've been completely outspoken and anti-Israel. It kind of shows you the heart of my people in saying, look, we've been welcoming the haters for 5,000 years. You have to take a number in order to line up to hate us, so you're way at the back of the line. There is no platform. It's been apparent now in the debates. There is no platform. It is purely. It so parallels the Palestinian agenda. We don't love we don't want Israel because we love the land. We want Israel because we hate the people.
Right.
The same message is we don't want the presidency because we love America. We want the presidency because we hate Donald Trump.
Right.
And that is not a platform that can win anything, because there's no meat to it. I can't give you free. There's no such thing as free in America. First of all, we're trillions of dollars in debt, so there's nothing free. Everything's got to be paid for.
Right.
And you have now you have Medicare, which was paid for, thank you, out of my paycheck. But they're now saying it is not included as part of Social Security, which was paid for. It's a completely separate fund. So we don't know how long Medicare will last for, and for those of us that are Medicare recipients, in my lifetime I'll see it, but the next generation may not.
Right.
The question becomes, what, from a political platform basis, is being promoted other than free this, free that, and to give illegal immigrants the vote and to give them status in our country, as if that's something that any other country does. There is no other country in the world that does not have a border. In order to be a country, you have to have a border. And they want to do away with the southern border of the United States of America and make it the free flow, which just means that either we annex Mexico as part of America, which there was a war, I believe, that was fought to establish that border, with Spain. I don't see anything logical. I don't see anything reasonable. I did an op-ed on the 4th of July that said that when my family came to this country, they had to disavow all loyalties to both Hungary and to Ukraine, and accept loyalties to the Constitution of the United States. And then they went and as immigrants, they went through the process of becoming citizens. Once they became citizens, my grandfather joined the Navy in the 1900s, and my father went into the Army in World War II. Not long after coming to they came in 39. He joined in the 40s. So this was the way of life. We're not seeing that. And so this is purely to build the roster of voters so that you can swing an election. Based on where the pockets of immigration are, all it does is enhance you can't change the demographic of the
No.
electoral college. Okay, you
No.
can only get so many delegates out of an area. Otherwise, the whole country would be elected based on New York and California, Texas, and Illinois,
Yeah.
and that's where the president would be elected from.
And you've hit on exactly two of the things that I touched on in my short little op-ed, which basically says that the Democrat Party is not only inciting violence, but it is actually attacking the Constitution, directly attacking the Constitution. Just as soon as the Democrats took over the House of Representatives, it was Steve Cohen, this Democrat from Tennessee, who put forward a constitutional amendment to do away with the Electoral College. Now, it's a crazy idea, but at least he went about it the right way. It'll never happen, in my view, because fortunately there are enough people who are informed enough about the Electoral College to understand the dangers of doing away with it. But this is what the Democrats are doing. That they're not just attacking you and I as individuals, Eric. They're attacking the very fabric of the country. They're deliberately attacking the Constitution of the United States. They want to do away with the Electoral College. They want to do away with the Second Amendment. They are working with social media outlets like Facebook, Google, Twitter, what I call the Silicon Valley axis of evil, to essentially undermine and eventually do away with the First Amendment, so that you and I cannot be allowed to exercise our freedom to speak publicly in the public square, which these days is Facebook, Twitter, and so on and so forth. So that's why I say, and you are absolutely right. It is getting so bad with the current crop of Democrats that you even have Bill Maher, for crying out loud, coming out and saying these people are crazy. Now, when you lose Bill Maher and you're a Democrat, you've got a problem. You know what I mean? But this is what the Democrat Party has devolved into, Eric, and it's getting worse and worse. Just about the time I think they've sunk about as low as they can, they seem to find a way to sink even lower. You've got Cory Booker out there talking about wanting to punch the president, and on it goes. I mean, it's just it's outrageous. I say let them keep talking. Let them keep talking.
Yeah, the whole narrative is unusual, and it's unusual because the ratings of the mainstream media are failing. That means advertising revenues are being lost. From a business perspective, a network has to have a revenue stream in order to continue to fund and to operate and to pay their staff and employees. We're seeing that the market share has shifted. People are no longer watching mainstream media. As a matter of fact, we're the benefactors of this fallout because we're a trusted media source. We're on demand. We don't have sponsors. We don't have commercials. We don't have people we're beholden to. Therefore, they know they're just going to get pure, unadulterated truth, whether they like it or not. So we could be inyourface.com, and that can be just fine. People want to hear the truth. But what's happening is that you have issues like Baltimore as a city. Baltimore was a great city. When I was growing up, Baltimore was an incredible city. And you have a film crew there talking about what a great city it is, and a rat the size of a house cat walks right across a live shoot. This is not edited. This is not something you can edit out. This is not a pre-recorded episode or segment. This is a live feed coming to you from the streets of Baltimore, and this cat-like rat walks straight across the screen. There's nothing you can do about it. Can't take the shot out. Nothing you can do about it. It
That's
confirmed.
right. Don't you know?
So
That's what the Democrats and MSNBC, CNN, Brian Stelter, the whole fake news Democrat media complex. That's what they're telling us now. That's racist. How could you be so racist, Eric? I mean, come on.
I guess I'm a radist.
There you go.
Or
Well,
I'm a rodentist.
and, and,
I just
and the thing is, Eric, it was Elijah Cummings himself. I believe, I don't know, remember how long ago it was, but it was some time back, where he himself came out and talked about, you know, what a rat hole Baltimore was turning into with the drugs and so forth. And you know what? Um, there's another place where we're seeing a problem with rodents too. And I don't mean Washington, D.C. in the halls of Congress, although that would be a good place to start. Um, AOC's district.
yes. But do you remember it was the White House? The White House had a rodent problem, and so the White
Oh,
House
yes, they
was
did.
renovated.
Hmm.
Under the Obama administration, they had a time in which they had to vacate because they were dealing with the rat infestation that had been there for some time and not dealt with. And so the White House itself was rat infested, which was just a comical commentary in and of itself.
Yes, it was.
But you've got San Francisco with uh, the human condition. You've got
Hmm.
Los Angeles with the homelessness, Skid Row. You've got New York with its problems. Now you have Baltimore with its problems. And what we're beginning to see is that domestic policy, which is not being clearly defined, the president's being attacked on the fronts of China policy, on foreign policy, on sanctions, on tariffs, but domestic, and if I read my Constitution correctly, that it is to ensure the common defense,
Hmm.
for the domestic tranquility. I
Hmm.
don't find it domestically tranquil to have a rodent large enough to pick me up and carry me outside to bite me. That is not domestic tranquility. And so we're seeing that take place. We're talking with Joe Newby, proprietor of conservativefiringline.com, a conservative online news source that I strongly recommend you follow them. They have some great contributors. Dina, through her work with Joe on the book, but Faye Higbee and Dean Garris and Jeff Dunnett, Dave Workman, many of the conservativefiringline.com staff, Rusty Wise, all of them very sharp, very insightful commentators talking about the area of home, politics, opinion columns, terrorism, education, crime, and there is the Conservative Firing Line store as well. And you can sign up online for their newsletter. I think you'll find it very insightful. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to pick up where we left off with Joe Newby, proprietor of conservativefiringline.com and co-author of Facebook, how Facebook enables, a book called Banned, how Facebook enables Islamic militant jihad. We'll be right back. Not everything that makes the headlines has biblical importance, but many events that happen around the world do, and you never hear about them. Igniting a Nation is pleased to teach Revealing Prophecy every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. at the Marriott 280 in Birmingham. We will cover worldwide events and insider information that will connect the dots of what's happening around the world with biblical prophecy. If you happen to miss a class, we'll televise each week's class at 10 o'clock Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our social media outlets. Copies of the teachings will also be available to purchase on our website at www.ignitinganation.com. The Lord meets you right where you are, and so does Igniting a Nation's new live streaming outlets. You can now watch Revealing the Truth, Revealing the Bible, and Prophecy Revealed simulcast live each Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 1 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Vimeo, Periscope, and through our website, www.ignitinganation.com. No matter what device you are using, our program will automatically scale so you won't have to miss a single program. And if you happen to miss an episode, you can always subscribe to the Igniting a Nation YouTube channel and access over 1,000 interviews and never miss your favorite authors, special guests, and topics that interest you the most.
There are lots of ways to see Israel, but nothing compares to seeing the land of the book and the people of the book through the eyes of two Jewish believers who can take you on a journey that will bring the entire Bible to life. When you join Rabbi Eric Walker and his #1 rated tour guide, Edo Canaan, in Israel, you'll experience incredible teachings, first-class accommodations, and actually walk where Jesus walked. You will experience the Bible transforming from black and white into living color, and you will never see the Bible in the same way again. For more information, visit us at www.ignitinganation.com/events.
The Lord contends with what contends with you, and Igniting a Nation is committed to bringing to light each and every issue that faces a believer's life. Our live stream programming and teachings take you on a journey to finding biblical truth from a wide variety of experts who share their insights into a deeper walk with the Lord. We have assembled the most comprehensive panel of experts in the fields of prophecy, caregiving, healing from trauma, shame, and abuse, and so much more. We continue to expand our teachings and programming to meet your needs. We're committed to healing the nations with biblical truth. Visit www.ignitinganation.com to develop a deeper walk with the Lord and start your journey to a transformed life. The Bible commands us to study to show ourselves approved, but most study using Bible study tools and not actually studying the Bible chapter and verse. Igniting a Nation is pleased to present Revealing the Bible, recorded and taught each week before a live audience. We take you deeper into the actual Bible and verse in both Hebrew and English and connect the dots between the Old and New Testament. You can attend our 2 classes in Tuscaloosa and Birmingham, or watch the program every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Central Time on ignitinganation.com and all our other simulcast outlets. For more information, visit www.ignitinganation.com/events. Shalom and welcome back to this edition of Revealing the Truth, where we cover the headlines, the heartlines, and biblical truth. I'm your host, Messianic Rabbi Eric Walker, and we're talking with Joe Newby, author of Banned: How Facebook Enables Islamic Jihad, and he is the proprietor of the conservativefiringline.com. You can find him online at conservativefiringline.com, surrounded by a great group of commentators talking about what is happening in the moment in American politics, as well as what's going on around the world. In this, Joe, welcome back.
Thank you, Eric. Good to see you again.
In this new lineup, we have this interesting character, Marianne Williamson, who comes out of the New Age movement, and not only does she come out of the New Age movement, but she comes out of witchcraft. A stunning statistic: there are more witches registered in the United States than there are Presbyterians.
Wow.
And she made the statement, more frightening than you can even imagine. She made the statement that America, she warned America about a dark psychic force. And that in a viral clip from Tuesday night's Democratic presidential debate, she warned about this dark psychic force of the collectivized hatred that this president is bringing up in this country. and it says, according to Daily Mail, she's gained momentum as the self-help guru, and that night she was the most searched for candidate during Tuesday's debate in Detroit. So she's the equivalent of putting Oprah in the White House.
You know, and I know we discussed this just a bit during the break. A couple things worth sharing, I think, and something that just hit me, and I don't know why I didn't think of it before. Um, Sometime I think toward the middle of last month, there was an article, I believe it was in the Washington Examiner, a few other places, where uh, the White House chaplain was actually talking to a Democrat. I don't remember who it was he was talking to. It wasn't Elijah Cummings. It was somebody else. Um, but he was talking about how he all of a sudden felt a real need to pray for the White House because he felt a demonic presence, or not the White House. I'm sorry, the House of Representatives,
Right.
because he felt a demonic presence within the House of Representatives. You know, actually there. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, I firmly believe that he actually experienced that. You know, being a Christian, I certainly can see how he would feel that, given what we have seen happen. And you know, Christian eschatology talks a lot about you know, in the end times, how things will be turned upside down, turned on its head. What's good will become evil. What's evil would
Right.
become good. And you and I have both lived long enough to see that happen within our lives. And the thing is that it's going to continue happening. It's only going to get worse. So I'm not too surprised that that chaplain actually felt that. I tell you what does surprise me is that we're actually hearing people address it and talk about it. Now, Marion Williamson, when she talks about a dark force, I believe she is. I believe that. Um, it's just I don't think she recognizes the real source of that dark force. Um, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump. Okay,
Right.
if anything, I think what Donald Trump's election has done, Donald Trump didn't bring hatred to the White House. Okay, let's get that clear. In my view, Donald Trump did not bring hatred. His presence has caused the hatred to pour forth from those who already hate. Um, and as far as Marion Williamson, um, good friend of mine, Rusty Weiss, who, by the way, runs his own site at mentalrecession.com, minrec.com, um, in a piece that he's got on the conservative firing line, she talks about wanting to pay uh, reparations for slavery, and doing it by with reducing or eliminating the 2017 tax cuts. And here's just something. Um, this is just, this is her in her words. Okay, here we go. Um, oh, and by the way, she claims that she's not a wacky New Age nutcase. Um, but she says that reparations can be paid for by, and this money comes from. The more you educate a child and the more you unleash the spirit of people by uncapping their dreams, the more creative people can become, the more productive people become. She goes on, the better the employers will be, and what she means by better is anybody's guess, the more they'll be entrepreneurial. I'm sorry, Eric. I never heard that in any economics class I've ever taken. But anyway, that's what she said. And then she goes on if you want money, help people live their dreams, because people want to do amazing things that in fact create money.
You know, the in this
Seems
piece,
to me,
yeah, in this piece that Rusty Rice wrote, he says, if other people's money cures your emotional turbulence, you weren't all that turbulent to begin with.
yes.
It's a whole quote, going back to quotation. I believe that anything less than $100 billion is an insult, and I believe that 200 to 500 billion is politically feasible today, because so many Americans realize there's an injustice that continues to form, a toxicity underneath the surface, and emotional turbulence that only reparations will cure. Okay, so we need to go back to what point in time? The 1800s. Okay, what are we going to do about the shipload of Jews that America turned away during the Holocaust?
Right.
Are they going to make reparations to my family for turning us away when America was to be a safe haven for Jews? But the records show that we did turn away shiploads of Jews escaping from Europe, and they went to South America. And there's a large South American Jewish population. Listen, our hands are absolutely stained with blood in so many areas. What's interesting, let's take a look at relevant damage today. The Boy Scouts of America were found to be riddled with sexual abuse. What has been levied against the Boy Scouts of America financially to make reparations to every child involved in that? The Catholic Church has been implicated, judged, and found guilty of sexual misconduct in multiple cities, states, countries. Who's taking care of that? Maybe there is. Maybe I'm just not familiar with it. Now we have the Southern Baptist Convention, now has over 700, now it's well over that, claims. And is the Southern Baptist Convention going to have to make compensation for their participation? I went to Penn State. I'm a Penn State alum, and during my tenure at Penn State, there were things that were going on that I was completely unaware of, but they were happening under the tenure of the leadership of the university that I attended. Did not affect me, but I know the university was fined and found guilty. Individuals within the university were fined and found guilty. If we go through all of this and we find out the corruption from the top, slavery, which was not invented here, goes back to the first time we see slavery, are the Israelites in the Pharaoh that did not know Joseph. And that was 30 years after the arrival of the 70, Joseph's family, who arrived there and prospered under a Pharaoh that did not know Joseph, but for 400 years. And then what are they going to do about the fact that there were black slave owners in America?
Right. Well, and let's go even further than that, Eric. We fought a civil war in this country, and 600,000 died. Okay? 600,000 died in a brutal civil war that tore this country apart, and in some ways still is tearing it apart. And what was the end result of that? Well, the end result of that was an end to slavery. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, we have countries in Africa and in the Middle East that today still practice slavery. So, if we're going to have reparations for something that ended 150 years ago, that no one alive in the United States today had anything to do with, and in fact, a good number of us have descendants, or I'm sorry, ancestors who actually fought it. Eric, I don't know if I've ever told you this or not, but I have a family member back in the day who was hung by the KKK because he dared to cut down a black man who had been hung by the KKK. So, has he already paid the debt? Where are my reparations? Okay. Should I not get reparations because my ancestor saved a man's life because he was unjustly hung because of the color of his skin? My wife's family includes a gentleman by the name of William Lloyd Garrison. Benefit of having been taught history. But who today knows who William Lloyd Garrison was? He was an abolitionist, a man who fought against slavery, a man who was chased out of Christian churches because he dared to preach against slavery. So when Kamala Harris or Marianne Williams or Cory Booker or whoever else talks about reparations for slavery, I dare them, Eric, I dare them to look me in the face and tell me I owe for slavery. When my ancestors fought it, when my wife's ancestors fought it, and paid for it with their lives, how dare they? No. If they want to talk reparations, I tell you what, they can go to places like Israel, they can go to Africa, they can go to the Middle East, and talk about it there.
Well,
and when they talk
interesting
about,
you bring that up, because this sounds to me like this is a world court. This is The Hague. This is something that the United Nations should outlaw. These are the kind of things that this is what the United Nations was created for.
right?
To take a look at social injustice, to take a look at situations that extended across borders that were causing issues, and so slavery, in its concept, should be outlawed across the world. There's only one body that can adjudicate that. That would be the United Nations. Then,
Right.
from a standpoint of crimes, for those, that's what The Hague, the World Court, is a place for airing those grievances
Right.
and for bringing that to the World Court and allowing those representatives from the World Court to make decisions. So until slavery is outlawed across the world, until it's no longer a relevant contemporary issue,
Right.
then doing something about the past for those companies that participated in it would require that you have some system for eliminating it completely from society, from across the world. Then once you've stopped it, now you look to take a look at what period of history will we address reparations? What period
You
of
know what? I think even I agree with what you're saying, but I would take issue with the whole concept of reparations. Okay, I would, I would say, okay, we've already fought a war. We ended it here 150 years ago. 600,000 lost their lives in that war, and we ended slavery. We did it. If you if you exclude the war, we did it the right way, the constitutional way, the way that the Constitution allows for these kinds of injustices to be addressed. This is something that the left has yet to come to grips with. When the founding fathers created and wrote the Constitution, they put into it. I mean, it was brilliant what they did with it. They made it possible to address issues like slavery, or to address issues like, whatever. And that was through the amendment process. Okay? We went through that process.
Yes.
We gave, we freed the slaves. We gave them the right to vote. We gave women the right to vote. We made it so that if you're born in this country,
The slaves were set free, but they were free and they left with nothing. So if
Right.
you look at the bond servant model, that I work for you for 6 years under biblical bond servant, I work for you for 6 years, I'm given a piece of property, or I'm given some cattle or whatever that I didn't start out with, but I worked for you in servitude under an agreement that I would leave better off than I was, and that would be my wages.
Right.
So reparations, the philosophy behind it is that this turns slavery into bond servanthood, and therefore you should receive something for your labor. But that was not the system that was in place, and that system has been abolished. So,
well, on top of that, the whole idea behind reparations, it really, Eric, has nothing to do with righting any particular wrong. The wrong has already been righted.
yes.
Okay? What reparations is all about is what I've heard Rush Limbaugh call getting even with them ism. That's all this is. This is about getting back at Whitey, if you will. But there's problems with that too, because as we've learned, there are blacks who owned slaves. I think I read an article here a while back that put forward the idea that Kamala Harris's family once owned slaves. Okay, so like you said, how do we address that? Okay, what more do we need to do other than kill off 600,000 Americans? What more do we need to do to make up for something that isn't even happening anymore and hasn't happened in this country for 150 years?
And it's not the cause of racial divide in America today.
Right.
If it were, if it were the cause, if every argument about racism in America today went back to slavery as being the root issue, and it's never been reconciled, it's never been resolved, but then you would never have a Ben Carson, you would never have any world leader who came out of America, who came out of the African American community and rose to any position of authority or power. They would still be oppressed because
Right.
of the oppression of. So we went through a process of establishing affirmative action. We went through the process of establishing motivational programs within America that would enhance and stabilize the equality where there could be no discrimination based on race, religion, national origin, sexual preference, and so on. Should we talk about reparations for people who were gay and were persecuted when they came out? Should we be looking at reparations for me when I accepted Jesus and I was persecuted by Jewish friends and neighbors?
Right.
Where do we draw the line and just say, enough already with paying people back, and everybody should be compensated for everything? Unfortunately, we've run out of time, as we always do, at this hour with Joe Newby, but you can join us with Joe once a month at the 12 o'clock hour on the what day is today? Today is the
Monday,
first Monday of the month at the 12 o'clock hour with the Joe Newby Hour, and you can find him and follow him on conservativefiringline.com, register for his newsletter, follow him on Facebook, and get regular updates. And Joe, we will see you this time next month. God bless you, my friend, and thank you for being a part of the program. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the next edition of Revealing the Truth.